Hello, good morning, good afternoon and good evening photographers around the world. It's great that you're tuning into the channel. I've got an interview this week with a guy who's been in the game for quite a while. In fact, you wait till you see the camera that he was shooting with when he started age 15. It's amazing. I don't know how anybody ever got a picture shot. Keep watching. Photographers, welcome, and we have an interview this week with Graham Gough, a photographer that spent his career in the Black Country in the UK. If you don't know where it is, the Black Country is an area right bang in the middle of Great Britain, next to Birmingham, the heart of the Industrial Revolution. In Victorian times, there were metal bashing foundries belching out dark, acrid smoke all around this area, which got it the name the Black Country. If you've ever watched the series Peaky Blinders, you'll know just what I mean. That was set in this area, and in fact they shot quite a lot of the footage at the Black Country Living Museum. But enough geography, let's hear the story from Graham about his career in photography. Over to you, Graham.
Well, when I had my first camera, it was quite daunting. I was only 15. The only thing I'd ever used was a box brownie, my dad's. So I was given this VN camera. Well, I wasn't actually given it, I had to buy it from the company. It was £80. This is the slide, and this is where you'd put the film or the glass plate. Had to be inside there and clipped into there. Then this would be done in the dark room, by the way. And then that's ready to shoot. And then you'd put it into the back of the camera. Then you would wind it up, because this is your shutter. You then set your aperture. You then set your focus, which was manual. You had to guess it. So it's all set to go. You'd make sure that was wound up as well. You'd then pull out the sheath, fire, then back inside, open the back, take it out, into your bag, and the next one will go in. Now if you're covering football, and the action was around the goalpost, and you were waiting for a goal to be scored, and you were hanging there, and then you fired at the moment you thought it was, and very often you missed it. There's no chance you get any more, because by the time you'd reloaded, they were halfway down the pitch. We had to make our own motor drives, which took 3 photographers. There was a stack filling in the Black Country, and 3 of us went along to take a picture of a stack being filled. I was a junior, I was 16 at the time, so I got to take the picture when the stack was just starting to fall. The other photographer was Brian Randall, who went on to Sunday Mirror, and he took the one halfway down, and Ron Knowles, a chief photographer, took the one when it hit the ground, and it worked perfectly, and it looked fantastic when they in the paper. After the plate camera, there was MPP, which had a dual back, so you could quickly change over. So you had 2, so you quickly change over. And then after that came the 2¼ square, which was a Minolta, I believe. Even that only had 12 images. And I did the Deadly Riots in the 60s with a Minolta with 12 images, and when action's going, when the action's happening, 12 images is absolutely nothing really. And so in the middle of action, you were changing film, and you never had 2 cameras. You only had 1, and so that was difficult as well. But you still got used to changing very quickly. After a bit of practice, you could change your films pretty fast. Took some of the pictures on 5x4. Was particularly one of a snowball hitting the boy's nose, which I'm quite proud of. I'd focused on his nose. I told the boy to throw the ball, and it just hit his nose. I got it perfectly. After 2¼ square came 35mm. Was a vast change, because there's 36 exposures, and you could have 2 cameras as well at the same time. And that brings me to the point where, when we first had colour, we were shooting on 35mm transparencies, and the news editor and the editor at the time decided they would like a picture taken in black and white and colour. So we had to use 2 cameras. And obviously these 2 people had no idea how photography works, because it's virtually sometimes impossible to get a good picture by doing it twice. Yeah, the next thing was digital, which transformed everything. I must admit, I found it very difficult to start with, but I had a lot of help from a colleague of mine who's shooting this.
It's cool, man.
And but it eventually came. It's easy, and it's a piece of cake now, isn't it? Anybody can take pictures, but you've got to have an eye for a picture, and not all. You know, an image is not a picture, is it? Not in my book. Nowadays, I think it's easier to get into photography. There's not so many newspaper photographers about there. That's the point. There's very few staff men. But when I first started, and I said I wanted to be a photographer, the careers master looked at me as I come from another planet. I originally wanted to go to work in a film studio, and I wrote off to film studios with no luck. Eventually got a job working for the Dudley Herald series newspapers, and when I was indentured at 16 for 5 years. I had a letter from Wardour Street offering me a job as a trainee at Pinewood Studios. So I wrote back and said, well, I'm indentured, but I'll break my indentures. And they wrote back and said the unions would not allow you to do that. So I stuck to newspapers, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I had a lovely life. So when I retired from newspapers, I went into PR and landscape, and then I decided to get a lot of my pictures together, and I published a book, which is that one, and used a lot of my pictures, particularly some of the early ones of the riots and that sort of thing, and now I concentrate on landscapes mainly. And what I've been doing in the lockdown, I've been keeping a record of my own lockdown within the garden, my garden here, and within 2 miles radius of my home, doing various sort of people, animals, and that sort of thing. Photography has been a major part of my life since I was 15, and I'm still doing it, and I think it's probably been I've enjoyed the career, and I just love photography, and I never feel I want to give up.